Hi everyone, welcome to the show. Tonight this is a stream I wanted to do for a while, but it's gathering the right information to be able to do it, kind of thing. Because people talk a lot about MK Ultra and about whether Charles Manson's followers were brainwashed or maybe even programmed by the CIA. Tonight I want to look at another explanation for why they behaved the way they did, one that's just as dark but much closer to home. I want to talk about the human trafficking angle of this case and how these women, some of them underage, were actually living under coercive control, trapped in an abusive relationship with a man who used affection, fear, and LSD to keep them compliant. What makes it even more disturbing is Manson was trafficking these girls, some still teenagers, to men in Hollywood, powerful, well connected men. And when that truth started to get too close to the surface, it had to be covered up. So instead, the media called the girls monsters. That label did its job. It stopped people from asking why they behaved the way they did or who else might have benefited. This all happened at the end of the 1960s when gurus were fashionable and when spiritual teachers were untouchable and when Manson could convince a generation of lost kids he was Jesus. And as long as he kept them high on LSD and cut them off from the world, they believed him. So tonight isn't about sympathy, it's about perspective and about why the system needed a myth like Helter Skelter to bury the reality of exploitation and control. Oh, yeah. Sorry, I hate doing scripted intros, but it's important that I make the point clear of this, because I don't want people to think that I'm trying to exonerate them or anything like that, because I'm not. It's just this is an angle of this case that needs to be discussed more. And there is the evidence there to back it up. It's not just rumor and myth, it's real. Yeah. Yeah, that's it. I've noticed. Yeah, you're not into. I don't think that before the case, like I say, my ideas is that something was done to them to make them tell the Helter Skelter story. Maybe at the most is at the most like you know the government might have brainwashed them, but we'll get into this the Loverboy technique and what that means in case you've not heard of it. But excellent. Right. Sorry, just looking at the chat for a second. Excellent. Right, I'll get on with the presentation, so we've got stuff to talk about. All right, this isn't about sympathy for killers. It's about naming what was done to them. Manson weaponized love, LSD, and loyalty, and the system let him. There's no excuse for what they did, but we've been fed the monster story our whole lives. If it happened today, they'd be recognized as trafficking victims. Acknowledging that doesn't absolve the crimes. It exposes how abuse hides behind ideology and how media protects power. What about the girls who never committed murder as well? Young Ruth Ann Moorehouse and Dianne Lake were both handed over to Manson by their fathers, effectively groomed into exploitation before they were even adults. Barbara Hoyt was forced into sexual acts she didn't want and lived with lasting trauma. They all did. Don't these girls deserve some acknowledgement of their abuse at least? With the statute of limitations long expired, no one will ever face charges, but we can at least tell the truth about what was done to them. So, what is the Loverboy technique? Modern governments now recognise this same pattern under the term Loverboy or Romeo pimp, defined as traffickers who exploit emotional dependency to gain control over victims, often through affection, manipulation, then later threats and blackmail. According to the Dutch government human trafficking program, these perpetrators increasingly use social media to identify and groom vulnerable young people, gathering personal details to coerce them into exploitation. Manson's methods prefigured this perfectly. His family operated on emotional leverage, surveillance, and dependency decades before technology made it easier. His version of the Loverboy technique came as an added twist: psychedelic drugs and a messiah complex. He convinced his followers he was Jesus, which made the emotional manipulation even more powerful and the dependency almost impossible to escape. So, in summary, it's a modern trafficking term for grooming through affection and control. It begins with love bombing, flattery, validation, and promises of belonging, evolves into isolation, dependency, coercion, and fear. Victims believe they're loved, and that belief is the trap. The Loverboy method isn't new. Ever since pimps have been pimping, they've been getting young people to fall in love with them and exploiting that. It's not a new thing. It's just this is the modern term for it. It's now a recognized term. Manson was using it in the 60s, long before we even had the words trauma bonding or coercive control. If this case happened today, he'd be charged as a human trafficker, not a guru. Modern anti trafficking experts describe this same process in starkly similar terms. As one report explains, the so-called Loverboy method begins when a trafficker targets a vulnerable young woman, overwhelms her with affection, and treats her like royalty to win her trust. And once she's in love, he isolates her, taking her away under the promise of a better life. And that's when the exploitation begins. It's exactly what Manson did, only his better life was the desert commune. He showered women with validation, convinced them they were chosen, didn't need material things, took all their money, if they had any, and then separated them from family and society. The tactics haven't changed, just the tools. Yes, because I'm like really concerned for young people today, because the people that use this technique, they find vulnerable people on social media and target them and get them, into exploitative situations. And it's even worse today than it was back then when Manson did it. And Manson did the same thing as this, but there's just a slight twist on it because he also was using the psychedelic drugs and he had them convinced he was Jesus, so there was kind of a cult aspect to it as well. But yeah, it's not a new thing. But yeah, the only difference is usually they don't make you worship them as Jesus. But yeah, that was like the added twist, and that makes it even worse, though. The thing. Yeah. Oh, hello, Jeremy. Yeah, I just realised if you've deleted your Facebook, I can't communicate with you. Can you use Reddit again yet? Because I can't communicate with you on Messenger, can I? I was going to send you a Facebook message. I was like, oh god, yeah. People are getting sick of Facebook, aren't they? I don't blame you. Yeah, he definitely was, and he learned things in prison as a carry on through the presentation. He obviously learned this from being in prison so long with other pimps. And like I say, it isn't a new thing. It's not something that only got invented recently. It's just the modern term for it is Loverboy or Romeo pimp, and that's what he did. Yeah, year-old man when he first got out of prison. This is right, targeting girls barely out of adolescence, most just 18 or 19 years old. This age gap gave him automatic authority, allowing him to pose as a guide, mentor, or lover while shaping their worldviews. Disturbingly, as Manson progressed and gained more girls, they also got younger. It began with Mary Brunner, then repeated with others. Patricia Krenwinkel, he made me feel like I was perfect. She was very hairy, wasn't she? And told her she was perfect the first night he was with her. Susan Atkins said he looked right through me, like he knew every thought I'd ever had. So there was idealization, isolation, then exploitation. And the withdrawal of affection kept them compliant, chasing the high of his early attention. And if you read about Patricia Krenwinkel, he was particularly cruel to Patricia Krenwinkel. Right. Manson had used this pattern before, as early as 1958. He was recruiting wannabe actresses into prostitution from the Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel under the fake production company called Three Star Enterprises. He'd learned exactly how to turn affection into leverage long before Spahn Ranch. So this is before he goes to prison the first time, and they've done a stream about that. Susan Atkins' account, in her memoir, Child of Satan, Child of God, Susan Atkins describes their first meeting as choreographed and hypnotic. He used music, lighting, and praise to break down resistance, a performance of control disguised as connection. He mirrored her movements, told her she was beautiful, and reframed obedience as freedom. What she experienced as a spiritual awakening was in reality the first stage of coercion. And the Patricia Krenwinkel account, this comes from Manson in his own words by Newell Emmons. Manson describes meeting Patricia Krenwinkel as if he were freeing her from shame, helping her overcome her hang-ups. But that's classic grooming language. He recognizes her insecurity, offers liberation through intimacy, and cements control by making her believe anything he does must be right. Within a day, she'd left her life behind to follow him. LSD is used to erase identity and resistance, trips reframed as spiritual initiation, sexual humiliation justified as enlightenment. Each session tightened dependency, only he could explain the truth. He learned from prison pimps and even a Scientologist cellmate named Linnea Raymer how to break people psychologically. Drugs became the proof of his insight and the weapon that kept them from questioning him. What's striking is that some of the most disturbing evidence of coercion actually was heard in court, but it got buried under the spectacle. I found these accounts not in the headlines, but hidden in one of Manson's later appeals, where his own lawyers argued that this testimony was too prejudicial to his case. It describes incidents that go far beyond manipulation, organized acts of sexual coercion carried out in front of the group. The details are grim, but they show exactly how the illustration of free love was enforced through fear and obedience. In No Journey's End, My Tragic Romance with Ex-Manson Girl by Peter Chiaramonti, Sorry if I butchered your name there, man. Leslie Van Houten reportedly told him that when she complained about being made to have sex with bikers, Manson drove her to the edge of a cliff in a dune buggy and told her she could either comply or go over. It's a chilling example of how fear and isolation replaced the illusion of choice. Yeah, because there was a lot of people when you see people talking about the orgies and things that were happening, they make it sound like it was something the girls were loving and all that, you know what I mean? But actually, there's a lot of evidence that it was coercive and people were drugged and forced into it. Like we'll get into it, like I say. Family orgies were orchestrated, not spontaneous. Participants are often underage or dosed. Consent is meaningless. Pairings dictated by Manson, outsiders sometimes invited to watch and take part. These rituals functioned as punishment, bonding, and control. Court testimony later revealed what the media called family orgies were not acts of freedom at all. They were acts of command. In one case, a 16-year-old girl was sexually assaulted by Manson in front of the group, then ordered to be used by others while he directed the scene. On another occasion, Barbara Hoyt said she was forced to perform a sexual act because she was afraid of what he'd do if she refused, Manson knows. These weren't isolated incidents, they were systematic demonstrations of dominance. Some of the court testimony described acts that were deeply disturbing, and I won't quote them directly here for obvious reasons. But I've covered the full details and citations from Manson's own appeal in the companion on Substack. And that these weren't acts of freedom or love, they were demonstrations of control. As like I say, a lot of it is too strong for the YouTube guidelines, and people who don't want to hear it spelled out that graphically as well. None of it's salacious. I'm literally just going to be quoting what it says in court documents. But if you don't want to hear that, don't read that, or don't want to see that, don't read this Substack article. But yeah, it's there's more than this as well. Obviously, I'm not saying a lot because of the YouTube guidelines. There was a lot of the one that rhymes with grape. Manson was arrested. Well, no, it was reported, but he was never arrested for it. A 14-year-old girl. There's a report of that. I've got the police report of it, but he was never arrested because her family dropped the charges. They just reported it and then dropped the charges. Didn't want him charged. I included that picture of Barbara Hoyt to show you how young she looked. You know what I mean? Yeah, and why are they not talking about this guy more as well? This is the crazy thing when you're seeing all the documentaries. That Chaos documentary on Netflix, I'm watching it. I'm going to do a review of it in a couple of weeks, right? They don't mention Dean Moorehouse at all. Chaos tells us a lot about Dean Moorehouse, but they don't mention it in that documentary. They had Greg Jacobson sat there as well, could have interviewed him about it, but they don't even mention Ruth. Terrible. Right. Dean and Ruth Ann Moorehouse, the enabler and the victim. He gave drugs to teenagers and surrounded himself with young people. His daughter Ruth Ann, only 14, was taken by Manson to Leggett, effectively abducted. Manson was arrested but released, appearing clean cut and respectable, short hair, no beard. Dean was later arrested and charged with contributing to the delinquency of minors, surrounding himself with young people and giving them LSD. Dean later became one of Manson's most devoted followers and a link to Tex Watson. In 1991, Morehouse was convicted of lewd acts with minors. This is when he was in his 90s as well. Imagine how gross. Oh, the poor. Confirming a long pattern of abuse. Manson's so-called family wasn't only made up of runaways. Some were handed to him by the very adults meant to protect them. Dean Moorehouse's transformation from preacher to follower is one of the strangest and darkest subplots of this entire story. He met Manson by chance, embraced LSD, and soon after watched his teenage daughter be absorbed into the group. Ruth Ann was taken to Leggett and kept under Manson's control. When police intervened, Manson was released, and the case vanished. Later, Morehouse himself became a follower and helped introduce Tex Watson to LSD, bridging the world of suburban normalcy with the violence that followed. It's one of the clearest examples of how Manson's Loverboy technique extended beyond romance. He could groom parents too. I've done a full stream and Substack article about Morehouse for anyone who wants more detail and sources. Yes, because like I say, I can't believe that this isn't discussed more, and it's obvious why, because it links it to the trafficking, and it's obvious this is where Manson learned how to act like a preacher as well. He learned from Dean Moorehouse, and also talking about he can groom parents. He apparently did meet Angela Lansbury, and she trusted him because he was presenting himself as like a preacher, and that. he could groom parents, and it wasn't until she realised how dark it was that she intervened. So he could groom parents as well as these men can. Yeah, doesn't he look young without all the facial hair and that? Yeah, but this is 19. I think that was 67 or 68. Yes, but it's like not long after he's got out of prison, and yeah, he meets up with Ruth Ann, obviously, and Dean Moorehouse initially doesn't like him, but then they drop LSD together, and he becomes an LSD maniac basically, and goes around preaching on LSD and giving kids LSD, and eventually goes to prison for it. Yes, like I say, they've done many other streams about him, so yeah, look for that for more detail on him. And the biker connection, violence is culture. The straight Satans and other bikers were regulars at Spahn Ranch. In that subculture, sexual assault was initiation, not crime. Manson leveraged their brutality. You can leave, but you know what happens to girls who leave. Danny DiCarlo, TJ Woolman, and Joe Dorgan, all from violent biker networks. The straight Satans weren't just visitors, they financed and enforced him. The cutlass Manson used on Gary Hinman was one of theirs. The money from the LaBiancas paid off their debt. That's like allegedly in Manson law, that was never proved in court, sort of thing. Outlaw motorcycle gangs were already using Loverboy style coercion to traffic women. He just adapted that to the hippie scene. Because, yeah, what bikers do, biker chicks, and they think that they're the biker's girlfriend, but really they get traded off and they get sold to people and all this kind of stuff. It was all coercion. And not really a relationship, but they trick you at first into thinking it's going to be a loving relationship, and it isn't. And bikers are renowned for words I can't say, but everything, and that especially at this time. So you can only imagine what they were put through, these girls. When the system looked away, police and the FBI have long been aware of biker sexual assaults, treated them as informants, not offenders. Manson's operation thrived in that blind spot. The media chose evil hippie cult over systematic abuse, linking law enforcement gangs and Hollywood. Operation One Percenter, a national federal investigation carried out in 1986, targeted organised crime within outlaw motorcycle gangs. It led to dozens of arrests for firearms, explosives, and drug trafficking offences, and revealed their heavy involvement in prostitution and sexual exploitation. But this was nearly 20 years after the Manson crimes. Back in the 1960s, these gangs were operating with near impunity, often treated as informants rather than offenders. Even with this level of testimony, none of these crimes were prosecuted. The sexual assaults were treated as cult rituals, not trafficking offences, and the case remained framed around ideology instead of coercion. The story was safer as Helter Skelter than as human trafficking. Again, this is a long reading bit, so this is, yeah, it gets even worse now. This is where we link it to Hollywood. Yeah, Joe Dorgan that's Susan LaBerge's boyfriend, isn't it? Rosemary LaBianca's boyfriend, the biker from the Straight Satans. He found their bodies, didn't he? He's the one that found their bodies. But that's tenuous. There's a theory that Tex Watson knew Joe Dorgan, isn't there? But there's not any evidence that he ever went to the ranch or anything like that. But yeah, Joe Dorgan was the guy who found LaBianca's bodies, though, wasn't he? He was the girlfriend of Rosemary LaBianca's daughter. And he actually went in to see because because they sensed something was wrong, so the woman didn't have to see. Hmm. The so-called golden penetrators, Terry Melcher and Dennis Wilson and Greg Jacobson, formed the bridge between Manson's family and Hollywood's power circles. Their shared obsession with free love and spiritual enlightenment blurred into exploitation. Melcher admitted in court that Tex Watson had been to his Seattle Drive home several times before the murders. Wilson and Jacobson regularly socialized with Manson's girls, recording their songs and hosting spiritual orgies. Dean Moorehouse's ties to both Tex and Melcher make him the missing link in how these girls were trafficked into the industry's orbit. What the world saw as Manson's harem was also Hollywood's playground. The golden penetrators, Melcher, Wilson, and Jacobson, used Manson's girls as currency, bearing mentorship, music, and exploitation. When Dean Moorehouse and Tex borrowed Melcher's car, leaving Ruth Ann behind, left her for 2 weeks while Dean Moorehouse had to go to court, him and Tex went off and left Ruth Ann Moorehouse alone with the Manson family and the golden penetrators. It wasn't an isolated favour, it was part of a pattern. Manson supplied the girls, Melcher and his circle supplied the access. This is why the trafficking angle had to be buried. To expose it would have implicated influential figures and shattered the myth of the evil cult. Instead, the story was sanitized into Helter Skelter. We've done a full Substack article and stream on the Golden Penetrators with courtroom quotes and first-hand accounts for anyone who wants the full record. Because again, yeah, this is crazy in an aspect that doesn't get covered up. And Terry Melcher minimises his involvement with the Manson family when there was loads of eyewitness accounts that he was actually a Rudy Outerbelly for chaos. Didn't say it in court, but for chaos, he told Tom O'Neill that Terry Melcher was obsessed with Manson and followed him around trying to turn him into a star. But that's not what gets said in court. Terry Melcher lied his ass off. Yeah. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, what the hell is a spiritual orgy? Yeah. I'm imagining, yeah, oh God, what are they trying to reach nirvana or whatever? Yeah. Who knows? There's also black magic things that you can do as well, isn't there? Orgies, and there's always been rumours that they was trying to do, yeah, that sort of thing. Sex magic. Who benefited? Manson's followers became currency in Hollywood's underworld. Producers like Terry Melcher blurred the lines between mentorship and exploitation. The same men who took part in spiritual orgies, rumours suggest they may have even been filmed, later testified as innocent bystanders. The state buried the trafficking angle to protect reputations. Melcher, Dennis Wilson, and Greg Jacobson all used Manson's girls for access and entertainment. When the murders happened, their connections were scrubbed from the record to keep the Hollywood machine clean. What Manson did in the dirt of Spahn Ranch, Hugh Hefner did in Silk Sheets. The Playboy Mansion was a high-class version of the same dynamic. Young women groomed with attention, status, and promise of belonging, then controlled through dependency. Manson's family and Hefner's bunnies existed on the same cultural spectrum, one criminalized and the other televised. Biographies of Warren Beatty and Steve McQueen describe the same culture of sexual entitlement, swinging and threesomes, reportedly involving McQueen, Sharon Tate, and Jay Sebring. Tate herself briefly dated Hugh Hefner, which shows how tightly the world overlapped. The line between glamour and exploitation was razor thin in 1969 Hollywood. And arguably as well, you could say all the actresses like Sharon Tate, because she wasn't the only one that was in these. They now call them sexploitation movies or exploitation movies. It's actually a word for it now. Do you know what I mean? It's like it was all so exploitative, wasn't it? And they labelled it free love, but it wasn't. It was just them trying to condition women to have sex at the drop of a hat, basically, wasn't it, with anyone? If it happened today, under California AB 124 or the UK Modern Slavery Act, the women would qualify as trafficking victims. Coercive control, grooming, and trauma bonding are now legally recognised. Doesn't erase guilt, reframes culpability. Who decides which victims deserve empathy? Unlike the Old Man Act, modern law doesn't require crossing state lines. Psychological manipulation and dependency alone meet the threshold for trafficking. Exactly what Manson did. It's like totally, they wouldn't have been able to cover it up the way they did because there weren't even the words to describe it in law yet. Do you know what I mean? We had to come a long way as a society. And obviously, the media and the people that wanted to keep the darker aspects of the motive for this case quiet, it served them, didn't it, to have you just think they did it because they were crazy monsters who were in a cult and Manson brainwashed them or whatever. They don't want you to know that it was abuse that causes the behaviour, you know. And there's always been rumours that there were darker sub-projects of this MK Ultra thing, obviously, where they were trying to make Project Monarch is the most famous one that people talk about. There's several women who claim to be survivors of it. I think the earliest one was a woman called Candy Johnson. That was actually in the 60s, the 50s or the 60s. And basically, the women that have survived it claim that they were trying to make a sex slave that couldn't remember what had happened to them so that they could, have the rich and powerful sleep with them and then they wouldn't know what had happened to them. So that, like presidents and people like that could get their rocks off without it getting out, because if they used just a normal sex worker, it wouldn't work. And this is like, so I wonder if there was some kind of, but also that is just a human trafficking thing. They try and break women down to make them malleable so they will just do whatever the man wants, sort of thing. So that isn't necessarily the government didn't cause that. That's just a human trafficking thing as well. But this is where it overlaps with MK Ultra type stuff, And this is what we need to talk about. Yeah, the old man act. I was thinking, well, yeah, because in London, yeah, that's a term for usually your father, but a woman can say it about a husband as well. The old man. Yeah, but the Mann Act that was about taking women across state lines. But the more modern laws, yeah, just anyone that's been coerced and into it, and that it is, yeah. I think I've got some discussion questions as well. So yeah, this is an interesting one. Was Manson the first Loverboy pimp to weaponize counterculture ideals? Because I can't think of anyone before. Can anyone else think of anyone before who's done a similar thing, who used the counterculture? There's got to be some from the beatnik generation, but I cannot think of anyone else before him. Now, would this case be handled under today's trafficking laws? And who benefits when the victims of grooming are labelled monsters? Isn't it? Well, you say, yeah, the people that abuse them are the ones that benefit, isn't it? Yeah. Like I saying, if you can't summon any sympathy for the women that committed murder, what about the ones who didn't commit murder? Yeah. Yeah, I did find out from watching stuff about the P. Diddy case, or Sean Combs is his real name, isn't it? That the Mann Act was actually racist. It was one of these rules that, because there's like the negative stereotype that black men want to steal white women. It was invented just to stop black men from trafficking white women, basically. So it was a racist assumption. So that's probably why Charles Manson, they didn't chase the charges under the Mann Act so much, because it wasn't designed for catching white guys. It was designed for catching black guys. It's ridiculous. Yeah. I have read online, the online rumour mill is saying this. They're talking about Virginia Giuffre. I've heard it's not a British Prime Minister. It's yeah, but I don't want to say anything else. But it's not, because I thought that when they said Prime Minister, it has to be a British Prime Minister. But no, it wasn't. They reckon it's yeah, a Prime Minister from another country. Think of other countries where they have a Prime Minister, not a president. Yeah, oh, it was awful, wasn't it? Yeah, seeing Diddy only get 4 years, and the fact no one else got brought into it as well. Yeah, obviously they had to silence, yeah, how many other people, and he's not even been charged with all the gun stuff as well. Surely there's got to be more trials and more charges against him, because they took guns when they raided his house, and he's supposed to, he shot a woman in the face in a club, and he got another artist who was with him, a young artist he was managing or whatever, to take the rap for it, and that guy went to prison instead. But the woman who got shot is on podcast and that, screaming from the rooftops. The bullet hit her right between the eyes, missed her brain, but oh, it must have been a horrible injury to recover from. She was lucky to survive, and she saw Sean Combs holding the gun and pointing the gun at her and shoot her, and she screams that from the rooftops, and she said that in court and everything. But another guy went down for shooting her, and J Lo is supposed to have brought the bloody gun into the club for Sean Combs. It's when J Lo and Diddy were together. He was calling himself Puff Daddy then, though, weren't he? Did he come later? Yeah. Yeah, well, that's it, innit? The people who abuse them. If you just label them like crazy monsters, who's going to believe them? Yeah, yeah, that's it. And was Chuck Berry another one who married an underage girl? Oh, or was it Jerry? I can't remember. Yeah, was it lots of them? Because there are states, or I don't know if they've changed it since, but I know at one time there was states in America where you could marry a 14-year-old, or wasn't it as young as 12 in one state or something? Oh my God, yeah, yeah. Yeah, sorry, just looking at the chat now. I'll edit these silences out. But yeah, it's an angle of the case that doesn't get talked about enough. And I'm watching the new documentaries, and they're still like skirting around it, trying not to mention it, And it's just like, why? Why in this day and age? Don't we talk about this aspect of it more? It's disturbing. Yeah, well, that's it, isn't it? Yeah, because Manson wasn't a rich dude as well. And I think he was put out because he thought that the Hollywood guys were going to come to help him and fund his defense and stand up for him in court. And he was pissed off when they wouldn't, wasn't he? Yeah. I think he was hurt. But what could they do after everything that had happened? What could they do? No, he could have had the best funded defense in the world, and it wouldn't have fucking helped him, would it? After everything that had happened, and everything the girls did just made him look worse, didn't it? As well, that's the thing I don't understand. The girls all imitating him, cutting the crosses into their heads and shaving their heads. It just made him look even worse, didn't it? It just made it look like, oh god, yeah. The whole thing is just absolutely insane to look at, isn't it? It was such a public spectacle. And they exploited people that were obviously really mentally ill, shouldn't have even been tried yet. The girls should have been in a hospital like Tex was until they were ready to be tried, but they just wanted to create that public spectacle, didn't they? Yeah, I've not heard anything about him moving girls around, 'cause that's what trafficking is, isn't it? It's yeah, having the women brought to you, or but yeah, I'm sure he's bloody involved in it. Yeah, well, he's supposed to have been making pornography, isn't he? And probably distributing pornography. But again, that's not proven in any police report, is it? That's just like a strong rumor, and people who can't reveal their sources say they know it's true and all this kind of crap. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Polanski is everything that we think he is. Yeah, yeah. By this point, yeah. But no, I can easily believe, yeah, that he's had women trafficked to him when he wants them. And he is unashamed of the fact that he likes young girls as well, isn't he? There's an interview he gives where he's totally unashamed of it, acts like every man should be into it. It's really, really quite shocking to see how little he cares that if people know about it. That's the most horrible thing about him. And the fact that people in Hollywood, well, the really older people still defend him, don't they? But Hollywood now has started to look bad. Realise that it looks bad to defend him, but the older actors still, you know, defend him. Yeah, well, why has Roman Polanski got off so lightly as well over all this? And the situation he left Sharon in at that house, and but everyone was saying she, didn't want to be there, didn't want the people that were living there. Where was he? Why didn't he look out for her? Why doesn't he get called out more? He got sympathy rather than you called out, didn't he? Well, I think people that knew what had gone on called him out, didn't they? But by the public, he wasn't. He was treated like a grieving widower, wasn't he? Obviously, which I'm sure he bloody was. But yeah, he didn't seem to give much of a shit about her before she died, did he? Rudy Outerbelly is the pawn connection between all these people. When they had new girls, new photos, new films, they took it all to Rudy to see what it was worth and how much they could get. Yeah, well, it is really, really hard to find a lot of information about Rudy Outerbelly, but we do know there's a long list of people that he managed. He was obviously a manager, and there's loads of accounts from people like on the Rudy Outerbelly stream that I did. Someone commented that he cleaned his house. He cleaned Cielo Drive while Rudy Outerbelly still had it. He went up and cleaned the house, and Rudy Outerbelly sexually harassed him. He said he was an old pervert. That's in the comments underneath the Rudy Outerbelly in court video that I did. There's just random people from the public coming to tell me he was totally a pervert, but he just seemed to have got away scot free with everything as well, didn't he? And he set Sharon Tate up with Christopher Jones, knowing she was pregnant, and knowing that he had punched Olivia Hussey in the stomach suddenly and stuff like this. It's like, oh my god, who were these blokes? How did they get away with it? Yeah, Dean Moorehouse most likely groomed his own daughter. She didn't show up at Spahn Ranch age 12, ready to be everyone's personal sex pot. Yeah. Well, she was 14, I think, wasn't she? But yeah. But yeah, it does make you wonder, doesn't it? Was it? And Dianne Lake, definitely. I haven't read her book yet, but yeah, it's devastating. Her dad apparently let people abuse her and then handed her over to Manson in exchange for LSD, and she was left with the family for years. And she was in a mental hospital after they all got busted at Barker Ranch. She went into a mental hospital, didn't she? Really terrible. And yeah, she's never had any acknowledgement, really, has she? Of how she was abused. In fact, people bloody try to discredit her and laugh at her. It's like, well, don't you realise how young she was when all this happened and what they did to her? It's like, oh my god, you would look shocked and disturbed as well if that had happened to you and people were asking you to recall it and filming you and all that. No, Christopher Jones, the one that was with Olivia Hussey, and he raped her. I've said the word. Oh no, at CLO Drive. Yeah, yeah. That guy, the guy that yeah, raped Olivia Hussey, Christopher Jones. Uh. Well, you see, this is the thing. I've found accounts that say that his daughters did have contact with him afterwards, and in the FBI report that I found in the 70s, she was still apparently living with her dad. So I think she did stay in contact with him. And there's yes, every article that's written about Dean Moorehouse, there is some guy commenting that he knew him as well before he died. And he mentions that at the funeral service for him, daughters came to the funeral service and stuff like that. But no, I think she did continue to have contact with him. Yeah. Drinking grape juice, are you? Oh, great, yeah. Yeah, that's it. They were victims themselves and then victimized again by the government. Yeah, yeah. That's it, victimized once and then again by the media and the public at large who didn't, give a shit enough to look into what had really happened. Because it wasn't really well hidden. There was a lot of stuff said in newspapers and that, obviously, which is different to, you know, it being confirmed in court. It's all that's more like rumor mill stuff, isn't it? But there's too much, there's no smoke without fire, sort of thing. There's too much for it all to be untrue. Like I say, the stuff about Manson coercing the girls and that is true, verifiably true. And like I say, in the Substack, I will give you more of the actual evidence, but there's just things that you can't say on YouTube. It's shocking what he got away with, what they got away with, and it was purely because if he hadn't sex trafficked them to powerful people in Hollywood, they probably would have talked more about it. But it's because of who his clients were. That's why it had to be covered up. And that's why they made it all about, oh, he brainwashed them using LSD because he's a crazy guru, you know what I mean? Because if they explained, actually, no, it's a coercive control relationship thing, then that would lead them to the fact he was pimping them out to, you know, people in Hollywood. And there's loads of accounts saying that the Manson girls went to Cielo Drive, that they were swimming in the pool. Gypsy was swimming in the pool. Even in Helter Skelter, Bugliosi says, I told Krenwinkel's lawyer that if he was going to say Krenwinkel's fingerprint got on the door because she was there at a swim meet weeks earlier, I'm going to say the maid washed the door. So why would he say that if the Manson girls had never been to Cielo Drive and Krenwinkel had never been to Cielo Drive? Why would he say that? He drops hints, doesn't he? I think he felt a bit bad how much he covered up. But yeah, there's so much we've not been told about this story, and they weren't strangers. And it annoys me when I watch documentaries and they just spout this narrative that they were strangers and they killed strangers, and they were not. It's just so frustrating. And people think that you're trying to, if you question it, you're trying to exonerate them, but that's not what I'm doing. Or what a lot of people are doing now. People are just like, hey, this isn't what happened. I've got a lot of good streams coming as well. I've got weeks of content planned. A new way of analysing the blood evidence I've found. That should make an interesting stream. And uh, loads of things coming. And I'm going to review the Chaos documentary on Netflix. I've watched that. Well, nearly finished watching all of it. It's about 2 hours long. I didn't watch the whole thing. Stephen Kay is interviewed in it again. He just spouts the Helter Skelter narrative, and he gets things wrong as well. Yeah, I'll bring that to you. Yeah, he says things wrong, which is a bit bad because he presided over 3 trials. Or was in 3 trials. He didn't preside it. But he was involved in 3 trials where he heard the Helter Skelter narrative, and he gets basic elements of it wrong in the Chaos documentary. I couldn't believe it. I was like, come on, Stephen Kay. And I say Greg Jacobson is in it as well, and they interview him, but don't ask him anything about the Golden Penetrator stuff, like in the Peacock documentary. Yeah. Yeah, Tom O'Neill. Well, this is the thing. Tom O'Neill is interviewed in it as well. But I was frustrated he didn't bring up, Dean Moorehouse and all that. Why was Dean Moorehouse left out of this Chaos documentary altogether? Yeah. And again, it opens with him spouting the official narrative again. It's like, oh, come on, Tom. You know that ain't true, don't you? But I think you have to get on the mainstream media. You have to say it, otherwise, you're never going to get in a mainstream. on a mainstream channel or have a production company interested in you. But, even if they're not gonna talk about conspiracy theories and stuff like that, about alternative motives, they could talk about this trafficking angle because it is there. It's in the court records and all this sort of thing. So it's not like anyone can sue them because it isn't true, because it bloody is. Mm. Yeah. Yeah, it sucks. Yeah, that's it. Well, it's well filmed and produced. It doesn't look amateurish sort of thing, and there are some good pictures and the remastered footage in that, and like it flashes on screen photos of Manson's parole documents and stuff like that. So it's worth watching just for these details. But yeah, I'm gonna do like an analysis of it and everything they get wrong, and like I said, I couldn't believe Stephen K messed up something about the official narrative of what happened as well, because he did both Leslie's trials and the TLB trial, and he still fucking can't remember the fucking official narrative. Mm. Yeah. Oh, yes. Oh, if there's been a problem with Capone. Yeah, I don't know if he's coming back. Hopefully he will, but yeah, I don't know. Yeah, grateful for everything he did, but he may have left, unfortunately. Yeah. And I think it's really sad that at a time like this he's leaving as well, just as the channel is getting better and we're about to start talking about the stuff he excelled at. So I hope I can, yeah, reason with him, but he doesn't want to talk to me. Yeah. It's a great shame if he is watching. I don't know if he's even going to watch, but if he does watch, please just talk to me. Surely, after all these years, you know me. You know that what you said can't be true about me. Talk to me, and I'll explain why I said what I said. But I don't know if he is even going to watch. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But no, it's really sad, and like I say, I'm really grateful for all his input over the years. But it's a private thing. It was a thing that went on in DMs. I'm not going to say exactly what happened, but yeah, because he hasn't aired it publicly, and I thank him for that. Yeah, but yeah, I hope that he will talk to me in the end, and we'll be able to settle it because it is a misunderstanding. Yeah, it's a shame. I hope he comes back. Yeah, oh, so he still watches that. Yeah, I don't know if he's yeah, but no, he's really taken offence at something I said, and he won't even let me talk to him to explain. Yeah, it's a strange situation, but yeah, I can't. Yeah, because it's a private DM thing, and he hasn't aired it publicly, which I'm grateful for. And but I hope he does come back. Obviously, yeah. And it is a misunderstanding. The assumption he's made was wrong. Yeah. Mm. Yeah, like I say, and it's just about to get yeah, and he's ignoring you as well. Yeah, but no, I think he probably counts you in on. Oh, but yeah, don't yeah. I'd like to say I'm not going to air it publicly because he hasn't, and I'm grateful for that. And like I say, I'm really grateful for everything he's done. If he doesn't come back, it's sad. Hopefully, he will reason to me. Yeah, this is what I'm hoping, that when he calms down, he will realise that it's not worth falling out over stupid things after all these years that he's been here and he's been so, helpful and good. And yeah, I hope that he will come back. Yeah, he will reason with. I can reason with him. Mm. What's this been going? I'll keep it going a little bit longer, and I'll do an after show as well again tonight, so I'm not so bad. Did finally get my teeth done, and the swelling has just about gone down. Yeah, yeah. And like I said, the streams that are coming up should be good as well. I've got a lot of stuff planned. And getting better at presenting things and summarizing things, because I know my core audience who've been with me since the beginning love it when I sit and read out long passages of stuff and that, but that's not the best way to present things. Really, I need to summarize stuff more and say, if you want to see the whole thing, read this, whatever. Yeah, yeah, I really hope I can. I can talk to you privately somewhere, Mark. I'll tell you what's happened because you're a moderator, obviously. On Substack, you did find the private messages on Substack, didn't you? I'll fill you in on what happened, but yeah. But yeah, no, hopefully he will come round after he's calmed down or whatever, and yeah. Oh man, you've missed the main. presentation now, but don't worry, it'll be up again tomorrow. And the Substack article will take a couple of days to come out, probably. Mm, yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, what's going on with him as well? I'm not sure if. Yeah, I think he was maybe just on a thin edge or whatever. And there's new people have arrived as well. I've suddenly given Jeremy like a lot of coverage, haven't I? And I think when Stephen came on the after show, I don't know what he thought was happening there, but Stephen just appeared as a guest, and it was just it wasn't a series. It was the after show. Do you know what the after shows are like? And Stephen was fine. Stephen's in the chat now, honestly. Stephen bought me a coffee the next day. Don't worry, he wasn't exploited. He wasn't upset. I do follow up with him. If he was upset by anything, I would have dealt with it. Honestly, Stephen was fine. And it wasn't that. It wasn't to do with the Stephen situation. Even that's strange. Yeah, it's like I say, I'm not going to air it publicly because he hasn't. I just hope that he will see reason and talk to me and let me explain, and he will come back. But yeah. And like I say, I don't. He's upset. He might not even be watching my stuff anymore, so he might not even watch this. I don't know. But yeah, yeah, yeah. Was it you, Jim? Yeah, but yeah. I don't know if he maybe feels pushed out or whatever. And I think when Stephen came on, he didn't know what was going on, maybe, and I think that might have made him feel maligned as well. I really don't know because he won't talk to me. That's the thing. If he would just talk to me, he would reason. I could reason with him, but I can't. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's always you. Yeah. But no, that's strange because for years he was basically my only moderator. Mark's here as well, and he bless him. But yeah, but he was the only one that was really like there and doing stuff and sharing my buy me a coffee link and that. He was good. And he's been so good over the years. It's so sad. Yeah, yeah, that's it. It was hectic, but it was a one-time thing. And also, I think people were thinking that it looked like bullying of Stephen, and but it wasn't. It wasn't honestly. And Stephen was bloody Stephen could read the chat and knew what was going on. If he didn't know what was going on, I wouldn't have. But I can tell. He's, yeah, that's it. Capone was. He was very good at tying loose ends together, and he would go and find the inflation calculator, wouldn't he? Like to tell us how much the money is worth today and all that sort of thing. He knew how to get that information quickly, and that he was good at stuff like that. Hope he comes back. Yeah, that's it. He's been brilliant, and like I say, it is a misunderstanding. I'm not what he thinks I am, and he needs to talk to me, and I'll explain why I said what I said. Right, I'll end this now and go to a after show because yeah, we're just rambling now, aren't we? But yeah, thank you for coming to this one. I wanted to do this for a long time, but it's planning it and saying it. And obviously, it's very difficult to talk about. I find these things quite upsetting to talk about, you know. But it has to be done because these things have to be, you know, aired. Yeah. Right, anyway, I'll do an after show. Yeah, or hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed already. I'm so close to 2,000 subscribers now. I can't believe how big the channel has grown, considering my production values and all that. Thank you so much to everyone who stayed subscribed all these years and all that, and who watches. Because I know I can see there are people that are watching everything I upload. I'm so grateful to people that do watch me. And yeah, and the Substack is I've got I think 38 articles on there now, and I get a lot of positive feedback for the Substack. And if you just want to read the information condensed without watching me waffle, or if you can't understand my accent, or if the sound is too bad for you, or whatever, just read the Substack. Yeah. Oh, thank you. Yeah, and I know I get a lot of positive feedback from people who love the live streaming as well. But it's a niche thing, isn't it? This is a weird niche thing. I'm a researcher. This isn't a podcast. This is a research stream. We're all researchers talking together. That's what this is really. I don't really want to call it a podcast, but I suppose by definition these days it is, isn't it? But yeah, but I would call myself a researcher, and I'm streaming to discuss the research, basically. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, I'll end this and give me 5 minutes and I'll do an after show. Thank you for coming, everyone, and I'll see you in a minute if you come into the after show or next week.